Hey everyone, we've all been completely swept up by the rise of artificial intelligence. It feels like magic, right? Something that just exists out there in the digital cloud, totally weightless. But today, we're going to bring this whole revolution right back down to Earth. We are pulling back the curtain to show you the massive physical reality, the world of atoms, of power grids, data centers, and raw materials that this new digital age is actually being built on.
So here's the plan. First, we're going to bust the myth of a purely digital AI. Then, we'll dive into the huge physical build-out that's happening right now, what we're calling a revolution of atoms. After that, we'll get into the serious power crisis this is creating, which leads us to the core idea of this whole explainer. Industrial metals are, in fact, the new oil. And finally, we'll take a look at how the smart money is already shifting to invest in this very physical new economy.
All right, let's get right into it. When you hear people talk about AI, it's almost always about the software side of things, isn't it? We talk about large language models, neural networks, all the complex algorithms. It really feels like we're just discussing ghosts in the machine.
This quote just nails the way most of us think about it. We see AI as this extension of human thought, a piece of code that just keeps getting smarter all on its own. And look, it's a really cool idea, but it focuses 100% on the thinking part, and it totally ignores the doing, the immense physical stuff that has to exist to make any of that thinking possible. And that's the part of the story that's been left out.
You see, this way of thinking makes the AI revolution feel totally different from the big industrial shifts of the past. The Industrial Revolution? That was steam engines, factories. You could see it and touch it. The 20th century was all about oil rigs and cars. We get that those were real physical changes. But AI, it just feels like it lives in the ether, Just code and data. But that's a huge misunderstanding of what's actually happening.
So this brings us to the big question, the one we really need to be asking. If we cut through all the tech jargon and we look at the actual stuff being built, what do we see? What are the raw materials? What are the real-world limits? This, right here, is where that myth of a digital-only revolution just completely falls apart.
And that's our cue for Section 2. This is the other side of the story. This isn't just a revolution of bits and bytes, folks. It's a colossal undertaking in engineering, in construction, and in resource extraction. We're talking about a build-out that's on par with anything we've ever done in human history.
I love this quote from the source material because it just cuts right to the chase. It reframes this whole thing as a business of atoms. And what that means is that winning in AI isn't just about who has the smartest code. It's about navigating the messy physical world, getting permits for power plants, fighting for water rights for cooling systems, and managing these incredibly complex global supply chains for all the hardware.
And this is what that business of atoms looks like in the real world. We're talking about data centers the size of small towns that need gigawatts of power. These aren't just servers you buy off the shelf. They use custom-built chips called ASICs, which are ridiculously powerful for one specific task. But they also guzzle electricity and get so hot they need these crazy liquid-to-chip cooling systems just to keep from literally melting down.
Now, all this hardware isn't just thrown together. There's a structure to it. It's called a three-tier architecture. So let's say you ask a chatbot a question. Tier 1 is the cloud, where that model was originally trained, using thousands of GPUs all at once. Tier 2 might be on-premises servers, where the day-to-day work of answering your question, that's called inference, actually happens. And Tier 3, for things that need to be instant, like in a self-driving car, that's on edge devices right inside the car. Every single tier just stacks another layer of hardware and energy demand onto the pile.
And this is a really important shift to get your head around. Training is like sending the AI to college. It's super intense, but it's kind of a one-time thing. But inference is the AI actually doing its job, day in and day out, over and over, every single time you use it. So as AI gets baked into everything, the demand for inference just goes through the roof. This isn't some temporary construction project. We are building a permanent, power-hungry, global infrastructure that's always on.
So you've got this relentless demand for more hardware, all of it running 24/7. That leads us directly to the single biggest bottleneck in the entire AI revolution, a demand for energy that is absolutely unprecedented and, frankly, might not be sustainable. Just look at that number, 156 gigawatts. Let that sink in. To give you some scale, just 1 gigawatt can power about 750,000 homes. So we're not talking about a small bump here. This is a seismic shift in global energy demand. It's like adding dozens of new countries to the world's power grid all at once.
And here's the kicker. That huge number is the projection for 2030. That is right around the corner. This creates a massive problem.
The digital world of AI moves at the speed of light. But the physical world of building power plants and upgrading grids, that moves at the speed of concrete and government bureaucracy. We are building the demand for power way, way faster than we're building the supply.
And that creates this very real risk of what's called stranded capital. Just imagine spending billions of dollars on the most advanced data center in the world, filling it with the best chips money can buy, and then you find out you can't get enough electricity to actually turn it on. That's the danger the industry is facing right now.
This slide shows you exactly how the problem has changed. A little while ago, the biggest worry was just, can we make enough chips? Now the bottlenecks have shifted downstream. Power availability is the huge one, obviously, but there are others, like these advanced packaging technologies needed to physically glue multiple chips together into one superprocessor, and HBM, high bandwidth memory, which you need to feed these hungry processors data fast enough. The challenge isn't just making one part anymore, it's making the entire physical system work together.
Okay, so this massive build-out for AI, for electric vehicles, for upgrading our power grids, it's all pointing in one direction. We are entering a new age, one that's not defined by a fossil fuel, but by a whole basket of industrial metals, especially copper, that are the literal building blocks of our 21st century electrified world. To really get the scale of what's happening, it helps to look back. The 20th century was, without a doubt, the century of oil. From the first cars rolling off the assembly line to airplanes to those giant offshore platforms, oil was the one thing you absolutely had to have. It was the lifeblood of the industrial age. It powered economies and shaped world politics.
And this is the key takeaway today. Everything we're trying to build is incredibly mineral hungry. An electric car, for example, needs about 4 times more copper than a gas-powered one. A single wind turbine needs tons of it. This is the copper crunch people are talking about. Copper is the metal of electrification. You need it for wiring, motors, transformers, for the grid itself. Without a gigantic increase in the supply of copper and other metals like lithium, this whole green energy and AI transition, well, it just can't happen. Not at the scale we're talking about.
And yep, you guessed it. Just like with oil back in the day, the competition for these metals is already becoming a huge geopolitical chess game. This quote shows that countries are starting to see access to these minerals as a matter of national security. Controlling the supply chain for these metals is becoming a massive strategic advantage, just like controlling oil production was for the last 100 years.
So, given this new physical reality, how are the markets reacting? Well, this huge shift in thinking from a digital-only world to an atoms-based future is causing a pretty significant reshuffling of money. What we're seeing in the markets is a classic sector rotation. For years and years, money just poured into software companies. Now, a lot of that capital is moving into what we call basic materials, so the mining companies, and industrials, the companies that make all the heavy equipment, build the data centers, and actually upgrade the power grid. It's a major pivot from the digital world to the physical one. The best way to think about this is the old picks and shovel strategy. You know, back in the gold rush, the people who made the most consistent money weren't always the ones digging for gold. It was the people who sold them the picks, the shovels, and the jeans. In this AI gold rush, it means looking past the flashy AI models and investing in the companies that are building all the essential infrastructure.
And this table is a perfect illustration of where that picks and shovels money is flowing. It's way beyond just the chip makers now. Money is going to companies that handle thermal management, those absolutely critical cooling systems. It's going into networking companies that build the guts of these facilities. It's going to the physical deployment firms, the big engineering outfits that actually put these massive projects together. And people are even investing in broader funds that focus on power infrastructure, basically betting that our entire electrical grid is about to get a multi-trillion-dollar upgrade.
So let's end on this one big thought. The 20th century was literally built on oil, and the global fight for it defined that entire era. Well, the great projects of our century, AI, electrification, clean energy, are all being built on a foundation of industrial metals. As we race to build this amazing new future, we have to ask ourselves, are we actually prepared for the economic and political fallout of this new resource dependency? Definitely something to think about.